About the other one, though. You know what I'm going to ask about?
Which one?
The files. The ones that were just magically shut from everyone at the end of 2021, at the end of Ghislaine Maxwell's trial.
Oh, that.
The Epstein files.
You know, I almost forgot about that. Talk about literally no reason to be classified. Mm-hmm. And another thing, you know Epstein's black book?
Do I know? I've read it.
It's sold at auction. The original sold at auction. And the photocopy's out there for people to see. Yeah. Why would we be protecting a guy like him? Why? He's a convicted pedophile, first of all, and probably way worse than just that.
Yes.
I think the evidence is pretty strong that he was way worse than that.
He's a bad guy.
I say all the time, and I'm going to repeat it here. I think the reason why even in death he's being protected is I believe pretty strongly that he was a Mossad access agent.
As do I.
It all points to that.
So why are we protecting him?
Yeah, exactly. Why are we protecting him?
That's why you're here. Please answer.
I mean, well, look at why the Mossad might be interested in somebody like him. Let's say you are the leader of the Mossad and you want really tightly held, closely protected information from senior American leaders, political leaders, business leaders. You can't recruit those people. You're not going to recruit Bill Clinton. You're not going to recruit Bill Gates or, you know, any of the other people, Prince Andrew. You're not going to recruit those people. So you do the next best thing. You recruit somebody who has ready access to that.
That's right.
And then on top of that, you give him an unlimited amount of money where he's got this private island in the Caribbean and a private jet where he can fly his friends down there. You wire the house for audio and video so nothing is overlooked. And you ply them with alcohol and underage girls. And you've got them. You've got them. So you can either do it the easy way or you can do it the hard way. You say to them, look, you just had a 16-year-old girl. And so you're going to tell me what I want to know. Or they know what the game is. They know what they've done. Otherwise, we wouldn't have people coming out and saying, well, I kept my underwear on. Remember that?
Uh-huh.
So I think that that's what this was. I think that this is because we all know that the Israelis spy on us. I mean, they're worse than the KGB or whatever the KGB calls.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that. Yeah.
Yeah, they're for the intelligence community in the United States, Israel is ranked as critical threat for counterintelligence. They are prolific spies. And so it just makes perfect sense to me that this would be an access operation.
So again, though, why are we the ones saying nope, closed up? Because let me paint a picture for you real quick, and you tell me if I'm way off here. I don't care if I'm way off. It's just what I think about sometimes. And I remember my first conversation I ever had with Danny Jones on the phone. We talked about this, and I've had this thought for probably 4 or 5 years. I want you to imagine you're sitting in a back room in Israel in 1967 or 1968. Okay, you just had the whole 1967 thing pop off.
Right.
You were just over 20 years removed from the Holocaust, where your race was attempted to be exterminated from this earth.
Yep.
You are still 4 years out from the Munich Olympics, where people are going to put their hands up and not help you, or not let you even come in and help the situation when your people were kidnapped, and the games actually continued. They didn't even pause while it was going on.
That's right.
So that's not even on the table yet. But you realize that there's a lot of support around the world that isn't necessarily coming to your aid. In your defense, you are a small country in the middle of the Middle East where at the time, every single country around you would like you eradicated from the earth. And in this room is only a handful of people. It's like Golda Meir, the leader, maybe definitely the head of Mossad, maybe the head of Shin Bet, one or two other people. And you are sitting around, and mind you, in America, we think about everything tomorrow, the day after that. Maybe if we're a real long-term thinker, we're thinking about next year.
Good point.
Other places around the world, they think 200-300 years out. Certain places around the world, they're thinking thousands of years out. And when you have something like, the Jewish people who have been persecuted throughout time, stuck together very well, who just witnessed an extinction event happen, they are thinking thousands of years out to make this last. Their population have been decimated.
That's why the Hasidic Jews have so many children.
Yeah, sure.
It's to repopulate.
Another great example. So you have that thought in mind, and I say this because you're not thinking about what does Israel look like in 1987. You're thinking about what Israel looks like in 3027, and what your people, the diaspora, looks like around the world. And you say to yourself, it's now math. It's now a mathematical, analytical trade-off. That's why you're in this job. You say to yourself, okay, how do we ensure our survival thousands of years from now? Well, we got one place that's a great friend, America. but they are geographically separated from us, and we're having some trouble getting them to come over here and help us on certain issues. We've had some tough back channel communications with them. It's not really working as well as we want, and we know the people in Europe are good for nothing. So how do we make sure America is our best friend? Well, this is the dawn of the TV age. It's where pop culture kind of all comes together. It's post-Kennedy, who was a pop culture president. You have politics, you have entertainment, you have media, you have, business. All these things are interchangeable. And you say, okay, we need to make sure we get close to these people. And we need to make sure that when we get close to these people, we have some information that can make sure that they're there for us when we need them. And so they sit around the room and they say, all right, what's one thing people can't come back from? And someone raises their hand and they say murder. And they're like, no, that's been done before. People have come back from that. You can come back from that. And then someone in the room says, and you got to bleep this, Alessi, the kid. Mm-hmm. And everyone in the room knows that this is a first world country we're talking about, and that's a big no-no. You don't come back from that. You do that, you're cooked.
It's not possible.
You're cooked. Mm-hmm. And they sit there and they say, maybe they don't say it like this, but they say, are we willing to sacrifice the lives effectively of 50,000 kids over the next 5-6 decades to make sure that our entire race survives 1,000 years from now? And in the words of Aldo Rain, I'll make that deal, right? Like that's the attitude that the people in those rooms have. And that's not a deal I want to make, to be clear. I'm not saying about myself.
Right.
I'm saying this is how they might think.
I could see
Is that far-fetched?
No, I could see that. I could see that. Their calculation is far different than our calculation would be. You're right about long-term versus short-term. We only look to, the end of the current president's term. But we don't do long-term planning. We never have. We pretend to, like on nuclear stockpiles and stuff like that. But we don't really do long-term planning. They do very long-term planning. And that's why they're such prolific spies. I remember on my first day at the CIA, and I think I told you this before. We were in it's called the Bubble, the CIA's auditorium, and all the new hires, there were like hundreds of us. And we were getting briefings, like the head of security would come and brief us, and the head of HR, and the head of this, and the head of that, and whatever. And the head of counterintelligence came to brief us and said, he explained what a declared officer was versus a unilateral officer. So a unilateral officer is you're undercover overseas, nobody knows you're CIA. A declared officer is somebody where, like, I was declared in Athens. My boss took me to the Greek intelligence service and said, this is John Kiriakou. He's a CIA officer and he's here to work with your people. Okay, so they've declared my status. So he said that the Israelis have two declared officers here. One Mossad, one Shin Bet. They work in the Israeli embassy.
They're missing 187 though.
And the FBI had identified 189 undeclared Israeli officers, intelligence officers, and they were mostly in defense contractors all across America trying to steal our defense secrets. And later on, somebody told me, well, the Israelis are obsessed with the idea that we're not giving them everything, right? And we give them pretty much everything, but they want to make sure they're getting everything, literally everything. For example, when the F-35 came out, they were the first ones to say, we want the F-35. And so we said, okay, we'll give you the F-35. So we just barely degraded the avionics, okay? And we called it the F-35I for Israel. And the reason why we did that is because we don't want anybody to have exactly the avionics that we have in case, what happens if one of these crashes in Russian territory and the Russians reverse engineer it? Now they have the F-35. We did the same thing with the Emiratis, the F-35E for Emirates. So they said, no, we want your F-35. The same F-35 that you have. And we're like, no, we're not giving it to you. And we sold them the F-35I. Well, they're trying to steal the avionics for the F-35 because we wouldn't turn it over. It's very typical of what the Israelis do. And then, at the same time, they smile and they thank you. And our friendship is forever.
Our greatest ally.
Yeah. Another one. He should have stayed in Philadelphia. The world would be a better place.
Yeah, he's not great.
No.
This is such a hard topic, because people have such strong opinions, and I get yelled at by everyone on this.
Oh, I'm sure.
Like a lot of things, I'm pretty down the middle on this one.
Yeah,
I fully understand why it's a state. I support that. I would like a two-state solution.
Me too.
I think that Hamas and Hezbollah are bad. I also think the current leadership of the Israeli government is bad. I think what's going on in Gaza is terrible. I understand October 7th was terrible, and that's what started in the first place.
I agree with every word you've said.
Okay, so let's keep going here. First of all, the million-dollar question. Let's start with an easy one. The F-35I example. If the shoe were on the other foot, will we not do the same thing?
Probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you got to call it both ways on this. That's fair. Second example. Not necessarily like a guy like Epstein himself, who is just so prolific and really like he was over the top about it. Like
Yeah,
he
he
was
was.
in your face about it.
Yes.
It was really disgusting and pathetic and a lot of things at the same time. The types of things he did, though, do we ever do that too?
Not in my experience. I ask, when I speak at universities, as part of my standard speech, I ask this question. It's a hypothetical question, but I usually talk about ethics. And I say, imagine you are a CIA officer working overseas undercover, and you have recruited a bona fide terrorist, Hezbollah, Al-Qaeda, ISIS, whatever. It doesn't make any difference. And you meet with him monthly in a hotel room, let's say in Amman or Cairo. And this guy has given you actionable intelligence that you have used to disrupt attacks against the United States. The guy's the real deal. And you go to meet him one day, and he says, you know what? I've given you everything that you have wanted. So today you're going to do something for me. And I'm not giving you any more information until you get me a prostitute right now.
Just a prostitute.
Do you get him the prostitute? I always ask, show of hands, how many people would give him the prostitute? And usually about 75% put their hands up.
Yeah, I'd probably make that deal.
Yeah. And I say, yeah, you would. You'd give him the prostitute. It's nasty. It's ugly. But, this is the job that we've chosen.
And that's her job, as long as she agreed to it, like on a
That's it.
business.
Yeah.
Okay.
What if he asks you for a prostitute?
Yeah, I knew it was going there.
How many would give him a prostitute?
That's where I can't do
And
this.
they all look around. And then usually about 10% will put their hand up. And I say, absolutely not. Not under any circumstances.
Let's talk about peptides for a minute. If you're like me, you're seeing them everywhere. Just because something says peptide on the label doesn't mean it's actually doing anything for you. That's where OneSkin's OS01 peptide is different. While some peptides just sit on top of the skin, OS01 goes deeper. It's scientifically formulated to penetrate the cells within skin's deeper layers, improving key skin health markers like collagen production, hydration, and skin barrier function. Not only that, OS01 is proven to remain stable from the lab to your countertop, so you get reliable results every time. Listen, if you're not getting results from your peptide, it might be time to take a closer look. All of OneSkin's topical supplements are backed by lab and clinical studies, and they're all powered by the OS01 peptide, the first and only peptide scientifically proven to target the senescent cells that contribute to lines, wrinkles, and thinning skin. Try OneSkin to get an exclusive 15% off your first purchase using code Julian at oneskin.co. Now, my favorite product at OneSkin is by far the OS01 face topical supplement. I use this in the mornings and always at night. And it also smells really good, by the way. You put it on your skin, you get a good little feeling. But what this does is it helps reduce the lines on my face. And I've been using it now for, I don't know, maybe like 6 weeks, 7 weeks, something like that. And I do see a difference. Obviously, I got to look good on camera. So, we need stuff like this. So go get 15% off your first order of OneSkin products by using code Julian at oneskin.co. That link is in the description below. Once again, that's 15% off using code Julian at oneskin.co. After your purchase, they're going to ask you where you heard about them, so please support our show and tell them Julian sent you. Invest in the health and longevity of your skin with OneSkin. Your future self will thank you.
First of all, from a practical perspective, he's not going to walk away. You're paying him thousands and thousands of dollars for his information. You're probably willing to resettle him if something goes wrong. But this is a child we're talking about.
the
A
worst thing ever.
child. The problem, though, is, and this is why I bring this up, there's no rule at the agency. Remember, your job is to break the laws of the country that you're in. You're committing espionage just having the meeting in the first place. So you've got to go into a career like this with your own set of moral values, with your own ethical standards. Deep down, we all know right from wrong. It's really not that complicated. You know that it would be wrong to do something like that under any circumstances. And sometimes people will say, well, greater good and all that stuff. And I say, no, in real life, he's going to give you the information. It's not about the child. He can go out and do whatever he wants in his own time. But you've got to draw the line between right and wrong because headquarters isn't going to do it for you.
I think the incentive structure you point out in that example actually makes your answer make sense. I would believe that. But on a greater mission level, meaning like if it wasn't just some guy who you're already paying who says, you know what, go get me a kid. And you're like, fuck you, you're not going anywhere, right? If it was something where you were trying to infiltrate people who were involved with this kind of thing and you needed to not even create it yourself.
You mean to disrupt a network?
Sure. That a network that doesn't have to do with that, but they do this too. You're telling me, and I hope you're right too, because I would like to think we don't do this, but you're telling me that that would never happen?
You know, I can't say with 100% certainty, but I can say in the 15 years that I was there, I never encountered anything even close.
Yeah, I couldn't see you doing that. Never. Yeah, you wouldn't even do the torture.
No, I wouldn't even do the torture. One guy asked me for a ton of money, and I'm like, yeah, that's a lot of money. And he says, well, I brought all my wife's gold jewelry. I said, what am I, a jeweler now?
Yeah.
Come on, you know the deal. You signed a contract.
It's a big organization though, and we don't know how big it is. And I always ask that to be fair.
There are a lot of sociopaths walking the halls.
And you know that, we're zeroing in on Epstein here because he was caught and he was here.
Yeah.
They're not the only ones who do that, man.
You're absolutely right.
There's a lot of agencies that do that kind of thing around the world.
A lot.
And that's where it gets messy. It's disgusting. It's horrible. But, the fact that we are closing those files does tell me a lot. And it tells me that there's influence bought.
There has to be. Because, again, there is literally no reason, no legitimate reason for any of those documents to be classified. None.
Yeah.